Have you ever wondered how we go from a simple question about the world to a real, actual discovery? Well, it's not magic. It's really about having the right tools for the job. And in the world of research, your most important tools are your data. So today, we're going to open up that toolkit and see exactly what's inside.
I mean, this is it, right? This is the big question for any researcher. And we're not talking about dusty old books in a library. This is a real journey of discovery. Whether you're a scientist, a sociologist, or honestly just a curious person, this is where it all starts. So, how do you even begin?
Okay, think of it like this. A builder wouldn't use a hammer to saw a piece of wood, right? It's the same idea here. A researcher has to pick the perfect kind of data for the question they're asking. The tool has to fit the job. And that very first choice they make, it's a huge one.
This is that first fork in the road. It's a really simple but powerful decision that honestly shapes everything that comes after it.
That's it. That's the question. Are you going to go out into the world and create brand new information from scratch, or are you going to dig into the mountains of information that already exist? This single choice leads us directly to our first two big types of data.
So let's put some official names on these ideas. When you make the data yourself, you're creating what we call primary data. And when you find it, you're working with secondary data.
And here's the core difference, laid out plain and simple. Primary data is firsthand. You collected it directly. Secondary data, on the other hand, is secondhand. You're using information that somebody else already put together. Let's dig into each of these a little more.
So, when you picture a researcher with a clipboard doing a survey, or maybe an anthropologist living with a remote community to observe their culture, that is primary data collection in action. You are the original creator of that information. Now, here's the trade-off. The biggest plus for primary data is control. Total control. You design the study, you pick who to talk to, you make sure the quality is top-notch. But all that control comes at a price. It can be expensive, it takes a lot of time, and sometimes just getting access to the people you need to study can be a massive hurdle.
Then, on the other side, we have secondary data. And this is the whole world of existing information. I'm talking about government census data, historical diaries, official crime statistics, even research papers published by other academics. It's this huge treasure trove of information just waiting for someone to explore it.
The biggest advantage here is just how efficient it is. I mean, why reinvent the wheel if the data you need might already be out there? It's especially powerful for looking at things over time for any kind of historical analysis. The catch, though, is that this data wasn't made for your specific question. It might not be a perfect fit, and you really have to be careful and think about how reliable it is and why it was created in the first place.
Okay, so we figured out if we're going to make our data or find it. Now we hit our second big decision. And this one isn't about the source of the data anymore. It's about its very nature. Are we going to be dealing with numbers or with narratives?
This really gets to the heart of it. Quantitative data is all about measurement and counting. How many? How often? Where? Qualitative data, though, is about understanding and meaning. Why did that happen? What did it actually feel like?
So, quantitative data is all about turning the world into numbers that we can analyze. It gives us a snapshot of behavior that's easy to count, to compare, and to put on a chart.
Here's a perfect example. A birth rate of 1.0 per 1,000. What that means is for every 1,000 people in a population, one baby is born each year. It's a single, really powerful number that tells you something very concrete about a society. But notice what it doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you why the birth rate is what it is. It just gives you a precise measurement.
See, numbers are amazing for making comparisons across huge groups of people and for repeating studies to check if you get the same results. But the main downside is that they can lack depth. I mean, just ticking a box in a survey doesn't always capture the full, messy complexity of human experience, you know? The findings can sometimes feel a bit superficial.
And that brings us to the other side of the coin, qualitative data. This is where we go beyond the numbers to really get the rich texture of human life. We're not just counting what people do, we're trying to understand the motivations and the feelings behind those actions.
This quote just nails it. Qualitative research dives deep. It wants the story, the context, the meaning. It's the difference between knowing that 50% of people chose option A and knowing why they felt it was their only real choice.
So the real power here is depth. You can uncover these incredibly rich, complex reasons for why people do what they do. But because you're studying small groups so intensely, it's really hard to say that your findings apply to everyone. And it's also almost impossible to replicate a qualitative study exactly, because no two human situations are ever truly the same. So we have these 4 very different tools in our toolkit. But, the most powerful research doesn't just pick one. It often combines them. It'll use the numbers to show the big picture, and then use the stories and narratives to explain what it all actually means.
Think of this as your quick cheat sheet. You've got primary data, which you create yourself, that gives you control. You've got secondary data, which you find, that gives you efficiency. Then there's quantitative data, which answers what, when, and where with the power of scale. And finally, qualitative data, which answers why through the power of depth. 4 different tools for 4 different jobs.
So as we start to bring this all together, we come back to one central truth. Great research isn't really about memorizing a bunch of definitions, it's about making smart choices.
And this, right here, is the most important thing to take away from our entire explainer. The data doesn't drive the research, the question does. You always start with what you want to know, and then you go to your toolkit and select the right tools to find the answer.
So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Think about something you're really curious about in your own world. Would you start by trying to count something on a massive scale? Or would you start by having deep conversations with just a few people? Would you create your own survey from scratch? Or would you dive into the ocean of data that's already out there? The choice is yours.